There is something quietly painful about growing up next to a mystery you did not know was a mystery. When the strange things happen so gradually, so naturally, woven so seamlessly into the texture of everyday life, that you never stop to ask why they keep happening. You just absorb them, file them under coincidence, under luck, under the comfortable explanation that some people are just a little unusual, and that is perfectly fine, and there is absolutely nothing more to it than that. This story is about a young man who spent years doing exactly that, and about the father who was running out of patience waiting for him to finally pay. Attention! Gavin did not grow up with many answers. About his father, the man named Eddie Torna had always been present in the loose, complicated way that some fathers are. There, but carrying something unspoken, warm in moments, distant in others. The kind of parent who seemed to be choosing his words very carefully in every conversation, as though each sentence was being measured before it left his mouth. As a child, Gavin had registered this without understanding it. As he got older, he simply accepted it as his father's personality. Some people are just like that. Guarded, private, hard. To fully reach what he did not register, what he had been somehow not registering for years, despite the evidence piling up, quietly around him, was everything else. The way problems seemed to resolve themselves a little too neatly whenever his father was nearby. The time a fire started in the kitchen and went out before anyone could reach for anything to extinguish it. And his father was standing in the doorway with an expression that was just slightly too calm for the situation. The plants in the house that bloomed in the wrong seasons and never seemed to die, no matter how little attention they received. The dog from next door that had been aggressive toward everyone on the street for 3 years and became immediately, inexplicably gentle the one afternoon, Eddie Torna walked past and placed a hand near its head without quite touching it. Small things, easy things to explain away individually. Together, they formed a pattern that anyone paying real attention would have found impossible to ignore. Gavin was not paying real attention, and his father, who had apparently decided that outright telling him was not the approach he wanted to take, began trying something different. Hints, codes, the careful, deliberate dropping of breadcrumbs that were perhaps not as subtle as Eddie Torna believed them to be, but that his son consistently, almost impressively, failed to follow to their conclusion. There was the afternoon he sat across from Gavin and made a coin disappear and reappear 3 times in a row without breaking eye contact, then waited. Gavin complimented him on the trick and went back to his phone. There was the evening he casually redirected a stream of water from the kitchen tap without using his hands, and when Gavin looked up, the tap was running normally again, and his father was stirring his tea with the practiced nonchalance of someone who had absolutely not just done what he had absolutely just done. There was the conversation where Eddie Torna very specifically mentioned, without any apparent reason, that the family had a long history of what he called gifts, and looked at his son with an expression loaded with meaning that Gavin received as a pleasant but unremarkable comment about genetics. The frustration on the father's side of this arrangement must have been extraordinary. Here was a man who had spent a lifetime mastering forces that most people in the world did not even believe existed, trying to introduce his own son to the truth of who they were, and being met, repeatedly, with the specific brand of cheerful obliviousness that only truly comfortable people can sustain in the face of the genuinely impossible. But underneath Gavin's skepticism was not stupidity. It was something more human than that. It was the protective instinct of a person who had built his understanding of the world carefully and was not ready to have it restructured. Believing what his father was showing him would not just change a fact or two. It would change everything. Who he was, where he came from, what he was capable of, and what the world actually was beneath the ordinary surface he had always trusted. That kind of belief does not arrive all at once. It arrives the way most important things do, in a single moment that makes every previous moment suddenly make sense. And when it finally came for Gavin, when the last wall of comfortable skepticism came down, and he looked at his father and truly saw him for the first time, everything that had seemed strange became the most logical thing in the world. He had not been living next to a mystery. He had been living next to the answer all along.